It's Tuesday, March 17th, 2026. France catches strays. Is Iran starting to break? And happy St. Patrick's Day. Next on the AM Update.
Yeah, I have spoken to him. He's been on a scale of 0 to 10. I'd say he's been an 8. Not perfect, but it's France. We don't expect perfect.
Here's President Trump responding to a French reporter asking him how he would gauge France's help in the ongoing Operation Epic Fury. A rare chuckle, there I say a laugh there from the commander-in-chief, who also provided an update, maybe, on when things could be wrapping up with Operation Epic Fury.
It'll be soon. Won't be long. And we're going to have a much safer world when it's wrapped up. It'll be wrapped up soon. We're going to have a much safer world. I had an obligation to do this. I didn't want to, I call it an excursion. I didn't want to make this journey. We had the highest stock market in history. We had low gas prices. Everything was good. And I know exactly, I know what, you're going to do it, and people are going to raise the price of oil, and that's good. But I know that. But that's a very small thing compared to allowing them to have, you want to see a stock market go down? Start letting them hit you with nukes, okay? I think, I said it this morning, I think it's a very small price to pay. And frankly, I thought it was going to go down much more, if you want to know the truth. I assumed that it was going to go down much more.
President Trump saying it could be wrapping up very soon, our excursion, he says, with Iran. What's becoming a daily occurrence now is media that the White House allows access to trying to drive a wedge between Vice President J.D. Vance and his boss.
First, Mr. Vice President, Democrats are already calling you the fraud czar. What's your reaction to that title? And then second,
good title.
Second, given
I like
your past skepticism of foreign adventurism, are you completely on board with the current war in Iran?
So I like fraud czar. It's certainly what we're going to do. And look, we have to do it. As the president said, this is a problem that has festered in this country for far too long, and far too few people have actually wanted to do anything about it. That's what makes this administration different, is that we actually tackle the problems the American people have been confronting. So I'm very happy about it. And look, I think that I know what you're trying to do, Phil. You're trying to drive a wedge between members of the administration, between me and the president. What the president said consistently, going back to 2015, and I agreed with him, is that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. We have taken this military action under the president's leadership. I think all of us, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, should pray for its success and pray for the safety of our troops. That's the approach that I've taken. Make it as successful as possible.
So there's no hesitation, given your past statements, with the current operation?
What do you mean there's no hesitation with my past statements?
Given your skepticism of foreign adventurism, you were a critic of the global war on terror previously.
Well, I think one big difference, Phil, is that we have a smart president, whereas in the past we've had dumb presidents. And I trust President Trump to get the job done, to do a good job for the American people, and to make sure that the mistakes of the past aren't repeated. Absolutely.
Thanks, sir.
So there is Vice President J.D. Vance again, trying to weave his way through those answers, and he does a pretty good job, simultaneously not really trying to ditch things that he's previously said, while at the same time not throwing his boss under the bus. So is Iran starting to buckle? Well, this is a quote that was being passed around yesterday, attributed to the head of the IDF intelligence on the state of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. Quote, "They're only now waking up to what's been done to them and how badly they miscalculated us. Their command structure is shattered. Their capabilities stripped down to the bone. What you're seeing launched now is whatever scraps they can still push out. That's their ceiling. Fighters are hiding under relentless pressure from our air power and the U.S. Others too scared or simply not capable. We're sealing their tunnels day after day, cutting off any path to more missiles. They're choking under the pressure. They are in distress." Again, that is a quote being passed around yesterday from the head of IDF's intelligence wing on the state of what's left of the IRGC in Iran. Also, multiple stories floating around. You don't know how verifiable they are about desertion rates from IRGC and Basij. That's more of their domestic street thugs. Desertion rates starting to tick up in Iran as well. course, the entire internet is out in that country, so I'm not sure, again, how verifiable much of anything is out of that country. Nevertheless, The Telegraph published leaked audio yesterday revealing the Ayatollah, the new Ayatollah, Mojtaba Khomeini, who, according to the New York Post, is a homosexual, by the way. He narrowly missed being killed, according to The Telegraph, because he went outside of the compound or one of the buildings that was targeted on that first day of Operation Epic Fury. He went outside to, quote-unquote, do something. This is allegedly a top aide to the former Ayatollah, Ali Khamenei, speaking to IRGC commanders in leaked audio published by The Telegraph. So he had to, quote-unquote, do something outside, and that's what saved his life, we're being told. We're also seeing lots of reports that he is seriously maimed, potentially incapacitated as well. I think there are signs, enough signs, there are some serious fractures starting to surface within Iran. Again, as much as we can see based on the context of what's happening, the messaging coming out of Iran, the little amount that we can see from inside Iran, it's certainly not what we were promised about 2 weeks ago from the pro-Iran crowd, that they were going to be able to fight relentlessly forever. Also, one of those indications that I like to kind of keep an eye on, Al Jazeera, of all places, published an op-ed declaring that the U.S.-Israeli operation is proving to be a success. And it wasn't a critique. It wasn't anti-West. Al Jazeera published that op-ed. If you want to know, if you're online, especially on X for any amount of time, it's like that scene from, what's that TV show? Community. Yeah, Community. Where the guy goes out to get pizza, he comes back to the apartment and everything's on fire. That's what X is on a daily basis and has been for quite some time. Sometimes it's entertaining, sometimes it's head-scratching. But there's a segment of X, a large segment of X, that is just the so-called JQ. The Jew question is just all that they want to talk about. Why did you stub my toe? It was the Jews. Why are you illiterate? It was the Jews. Saw some interesting polling. This is an NBC poll. Israel has lost just 2 points in public support among Republicans since 2013. Just 2 points in the last 13 years. If you go online, the purported right-wing influencer networks / grifters, if you paid attention to them, you'd think that there was like 2% support for Israel amongst the Republican Party. But nope, it's only slipped 2 points in the last 13 years or so. Isn't that something? Again, that's an NBC News poll. 54% of Republicans view Israel positively. 57% of Democrats view Israel negatively. Back to Trump, who made this sad announcement, scary announcement yesterday, saying on Truth Social, quote, Susie Wiles, that's his chief of staff, is an incredible chief of staff, a great person, and one of the strongest people I know, but unfortunately she has been diagnosed with early-stage breast cancer and has decided to take on this challenge immediately as opposed to waiting. She has a fantastic medical team, and her prognosis is excellent. During the treatment period, she will be spending virtually full time at the White House, which makes me, as president, very happy. Her strength and her commitment to continue doing the job she loves and does so well while undergoing treatment tells you everything you need to know about her. So President Trump announcing his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, diagnosed with breast cancer. That is scary, but it sounds, as President Trump said, it sounds like the prognosis is good. Well, let's see what Democrats, left-wingers, are up to. Here's Joy Reid, former MSNBC host, on her perception of Iran.
Our regime has secret police. They have secret police. Our regime is oppressing women, taking away abortion rights, taking away women's rights in like 26 states, some states where they're trying to have the death penalty for having an abortion. They also oppress women. They have the highest rate of women who are in STEM careers. We're kicking women out of the military, out of university. We're saying that DEI means women can't be hired for high positions in the sciences. We're marginally better. And we're doing it for Christianity, they're doing it for Islam, right? Yeah. So it's like we don't get told those things because it would take away the kind of American exceptionalism narrative.
Move to Iran. Joy Reid, move to Iran. If you truly believe that Islam and Christianity are morally equal, just move to Iran. If you truly believe that this country is just the same as Iran in all of those other facets, the only difference is Christianity versus Islam, move to Iran. See how that works out for you. When we come back, happy St. Patrick's Day. That's coming up next. This is Ireland's president, who has this special St. Patrick's Day message for anyone who will listen.
The story of Patrick's life serves as a reminder of the resilience and courage of migrants, the invaluable contributions that they have made and continue to make to the countries they now call home, sometimes even in the face of great adversity. Patrick's story speaks not only to the Ireland of the 5th century, but to the millions still subjected to trafficking, forced labour and displacement today. As we recall the life of Patrick, we invoke his spirit and acknowledge our shared responsibilities as global citizens. We stand in solidarity with those who find themselves in vulnerable and dangerous circumstances. Patrick's story invites us to respond with hospitality and kindness to those suffering the consequences of war and displacement, those fleeing their countries because of persecution.
Catherine Connolly, Ireland's president, with a special St. Patrick's Day message, saying the message of St. Patrick is that we should welcome, be hospitable to immigrants, and to urge global citizens to acknowledge their shared responsibility. The truth of the matter, though, is that countries like Ireland, the broader British Isles, Europe in general, they are importing some of the same impulses that St. Patrick found when he confronted the Druids, evangelized the Druids. They're importing that. But the message here is just to be welcoming, that it's our responsibility to take care of these third and fourth worlders. And yes, if they are passing through, sure. But to be wards of the state, which is basically Irish President Catherine Connolly's message there, no. And there's nothing along the lines of converting to our way. What St. Patrick did was he looked at some of the roughest people in the Western Hemisphere. He saw them, he observed them, and with great courage of conviction, filled with the Holy Spirit, he, by some accounts, converted hundreds of thousands, nearly, of those Druids. And now here, almost 2,000, 1,700 years later, after the time of Patrick, now the message is, we need to welcome all of the third worlders, no questions asked, to become wards of the state, wards of the taxpayer. A couple of years ago, Pastor Jamie Bambrick, I believe he is from Ireland originally, maybe Scotland. He's from the United Kingdom. Pastor Jamie Bambrick read aloud, and I'd never heard this before, read aloud and set it to some cool music, St. Patrick's breastplate, or, as it's known sometimes, St. Patrick's prayer. Now, I'd only heard a smidgen of this towards the end. I want to know, had you heard this in its entirety, in its entire context before? I had not, before I'd listened to this production from Pastor Jamie Bambrick just a couple of years ago. St. Patrick's prayer, the battle cry of St. Patrick.
I arise today through a mighty strength, the invocation of the Trinity, through belief in the threeness, through confession of the oneness of the Creator of creation. I arise today through the strength of Christ's birth with his baptism, through the strength of his crucifixion with his burial, through the strength of his resurrection with his ascension, through the strength of his descent for the judgment of doom. I arise today through the strength of the love of cherubim, in the obedience of angels, in the service of archangels, in the hope of resurrection to meet with reward, in the prayers of patriarchs, in the predictions of prophets, in the preaching of apostles, in the faith of confessors, in the innocence of holy virgins, in the deeds of righteous men. I arise today through the strength of heaven, the light of the sun, the radiance of the moon, the splendor of fire, the speed of lightning, the swiftness of wind, the depth of the sea, the stability of the earth, the firmness of rock. I arise today through God's strength to pilot me, God's might to uphold me, God's wisdom to guide me, God's eye to look before me, God's ear to hear me, God's word to speak for me, God's hand to guard me, God's shield to protect me, God's host to save me from snares of devils, from temptation of vices, from everyone who shall wish me ill afar and near. I summon today all these powers between me and those evils, against every cruel and merciless power that may oppose my body and soul, against incantations of false prophets, against black laws of pagandom, against false laws of heretics, against craft of idolatry, against spells of witches and smiths and wizards, against every knowledge that corrupts man's body and soul, Christ to shield me today against poison, against burning, against drowning, against wounding, so that there may come to me an abundance of reward. Christ with me. Christ before me. Christ behind me. Christ in me. Christ beneath me, Christ above me, Christ on my right, Christ on my left, Christ when I lie down, Christ when I sit down, Christ when I arise, Christ in the heart of every man who thinks of me, Christ in the mouth of everyone who speaks of me, Christ in every eye that sees me, Christ in every ear that hears me. I arise today through a mighty strength, the invocation of the Trinity, through belief in the threeness, through confession of the oneness of the Creator of creation. I arise today.
Possibly the most epic, glorious prayer, extra biblical prayer in church history. St. Patrick's, it's kind of colloquially known as St. Patrick's breastplate. Christ be with me, within me, behind me, before me, beside me. That's amazing. That's good stuff, and good stuff as always from Pastor Jamie Bambrick. That's going to do it for a Tuesday, a St. Patrick's Day. We'll be back at it again tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be the last episode of the week, taking a little bit of time off. It's going to do it. See you again tomorrow. I'm Aaron McIntyre, and this is the AM Update.